And welcome back to Technology Behind Business. 30 years after launching their first PC, IBM are now among many predicting they're on the way out, saying they're going to go the way of the typewriter. With sales of tablets and mobiles growing exponentially, it's become common knowledge now that we're living in a post-PC era. But is it too early to write off the desktop computer? And what does this trend mean for business? Well, to put this in perspective for us, we have on our panel Fouad Fadaghi, Research Director from Telsight, futurist Mark Pesce and Rhys Evans from Thomas Duryea. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show today. Fouad, I'm going to start with you. This term post-PC era seems to have been coined by Steve Jobs, or used by Steve Jobs a lot, and like anything Apple does, it seems to have gained a lot of popularity. What does it actually mean? Does it mean that the PC won't exist anymore?
Look, I don't think it means that the PC won't exist anymore. I just think that more of the functionality of the things that people do on PCs is moving to other devices. So whether that be a tablet or a smartphone or even other devices, we're just seeing this continual movement away from the applications that we typically would do on a computer onto these other things.
Okay. Mark, what's your view on that?
Well, we're going to see differentiation. There are different kinds of applications that you can do on a different form factor, whether that's a mobile or a tablet. But you're also going to see the desktop actually start to change because of the pressure that the post-PC is putting on it. So we're going to see a new chip called the Knight's Corner from Intel. It's going to be introduced in the middle of this year. It's going to basically create a supercomputer inside of a desktop computer. So rather than sending your big data analysis off to the IT department or doing it out on the cloud, you'll actually have, say, a CMO doing it on their desk using this chip. So you're going to see the desktop actually respond to the challenge of the post-PC.
I'm going to challenge you on that because I think that we're seeing a move towards a cloud, and Rhys, you might have a view to that as well. And if we have a move towards a cloud with things like Google's Chromebook, for example, would that not mean that computers would need to be less powerful, or we're not so concerned about their processing power?
I think it's going to be both. Not every desktop is going to need to be hugely powerful, but one of the directions that the desktop is being pushed into, because there are these other devices around, is toward being grunty, because it's one of the things it can always do well.
Okay. Rhys, what's your perspective on what post-PC era really means?
Look, I agree with the guys. Post-PC is really a change in the way we work and a change in the types of devices we use day to day in our working lifestyles. But it's really driven a lot by the cloud. I understand new chips are coming out. I believe we'll all be moving towards smaller form factor devices and workstations. But really we're seeing this emergence of the personal cloud and multiple devices and this entire user experience driven off this post-PC era. So it's very, very important to understand how the cloud fits into this perspective.
Fouad, what's taking the growth here from the PC? Is it smartphones? Is it tablets? Is it both?
I think what's happening is a lot of people are delaying their purchase decisions around their next PC. I think that's kind of one of the trends that we've noticed. And we've had to really reevaluate some of our estimates around forecasting the growth of tablets and revise some of those figures up because they seem to be selling like hotcakes. And a lot of people are saying, well, look, maybe I'll buy a tablet for now. My PC's still working. Maybe I'll upgrade to a PC down the track. And I think newer form factors of PCs might help that, including thinner, lighter devices that maybe also include some of the functionality that you get in the tablet right now.
Okay. Mark, your view on that question of tablets and PCs, how they fit together?
Well, they're starting to get very, very blurry boundaries. When you get to Windows 8, which we're going to see from Microsoft around June, you're going to have a PC that acts like a tablet and a tablet that acts like a PC. Probably Windows Phone 8 will actually be Windows 8, so you're going to have a mobile phone and a tablet that all work the same. And so then it's going to be a matter of, well, do I need a keyboard? Do I want to poke at the screen? Do I want to talk to somebody? So it's going to be driven much more by the task than by the actual device.
Okay. And Rhys, with so much of our data now in the cloud, it really mitigates the need to have PCs or desktops, and we can access a lot of this on tablets. Are you seeing the cloud being a primary driver of tablet growth?
At the moment, we're not seeing the cloud being the primary driver, and it's interesting, we're not seeing businesses actually purchasing the devices for their users. It's this entire consumerisation of IT. People are bringing their iPads and their iPhones, which was really the first to do it, and they can configure them for their corporate environments without IT knowing. So it's a very big drive, and it's a very big problem for IT and the IT managers to understand how to make this kind of work best for the users and best for the IT team and the business overall.
Mark, you talked about form factors and newer types of PCs. What does the outlook, or what is the outlook for PC manufacturers? HP said earlier this year they were exiting the PC business, now they're back in there. IBM exited many years ago, but Lenovo are doing well. Is the focus now really on the emerging world?
Yeah, I think that if you're talking about where the sales are going to be, yes, that next 500 million PCs that get sold in the next few years are going to go into places that don't already have too many of them. Australia already has as many PCs as it's going to need. There's some replacement that's going to be around, but we don't need to stock up again. So I think that what you're going to see is that, but you're also going to see, particularly in the developing world, that the mobile becomes a really effective competitor to the PC in those environments. And because you have an infrastructure for networking that is focused on mobile, and you now have mobile devices that are as capable in many situations as PCs.
And Fouad, picking up on Reese's point about people bringing in their own devices to work. We've heard a lot about this in 2011. You said in one of your predictions that's going to continue into 2012. How are employers going to respond? Are they going to start to provide these devices to their employees?
Absolutely. I think that there is a lot of usage scenarios where you're already seeing tablets being used, or even smartphones. You know, couriers, for example, have been using smartphones for many years. So there's many of these applications that already exist in business where businesses are going to replace their devices with tablets, whether that is a PC with a dongle, with a tablet, or with a smartphone. So,
okay.
Just on that, I think what we're seeing at the moment is things like the couriers with their specific PCs and tablets have been going really well for quite some time. We're hitting a point where there's a big blur between the corporate and personal device, and really how do users effectively gain access to corporate infrastructure without removing their personalised experience on that device. One thing I struggle quite a bit with a lot of IT businesses and businesses overall is, you know, if a user loses their device and it's got all their personal information, does the business have the right to forcefully remove all that information from the device and wipe it? It's a very big problem.
Mark, I'm going to pose a question to you, being a futurist. Gartner says there are 1.5 billion PCs in the world today. That number's going to go up to 2 billion by 2014, so they're going to be around for a long time. No one solved the input problem on tablets. Will tablets ever replace PCs? If so?
Well, we see with Apple's Siri, you see part of the problem being solved. With Xbox Connect, you see part of the problem being solved. So the problems are being solved in ways that don't look like a keyboard, but that are still effective for us to be able to use as input devices. And so this decade is going to see the biggest transformation in computer input, in computer-human interaction that we've seen since the mouse and the keyboard came around 30 years ago. And that's really what's going to take us into the future of how do we live without a keyboard or on a device that really only occasionally has a keyboard.
Okay, Reece, what's your perspective on that?
I completely agree with Mark. The way we're going to be using these devices is changing rapidly, and with Siri and lots of other technologies coming up behind it, it's moving at such a fast pace. Again, the challenge is right now for businesses understanding how this affects them and really how they can make use of some of these things. Microsoft have really found quite a gem in Connect. They've worked really, really well and worked well with businesses and a lot of manufacturers out there to bring that into the mainstream. And I think we'll see with that with Windows 8 potentially coming with built-in webcams on the software, that will become more mainstream again.
Fouad, if you take a walk around any office in the CBD of Sydney or any city, you will still see, despite Connect and Siri, people sitting at keyboards typing away on their PC. So nothing's really changed despite this hype about a post-PC era.
Look, I think a lot of businesses already have investments in computing technology within their workplaces. They're just not replacing them as often as they used to. You know, it was every 2 years that they needed to replace them. You're seeing a lot of older machines now sitting on people's desks, which is quite interesting, and it's seriously impacting the manufacturers of PCs right now.
You also, I think we forget how much of what we actually do in front of the PC is driven by the fact that it's there. Before everyone had a PC on their desk, everyone didn't sit in front of a typewriter all day. Everyone didn't sit in front of a sheet of paper doing a spreadsheet all day. It's because that capability was there that the work tasks started to shape itself around that. So new kinds of work tasks will shape themselves around the new devices.
You've talked a lot about Windows 8 today, and I want to touch on what this means for Microsoft, because they have been a dominant player in the market for quite some time, but some analysts now have grave concerns about the future of their core business. With this move to a post-PC era as it's happening, what does it mean for Microsoft?
If they do this right, they will be the first company that has a platform that is mobile, tablet, and desktop, and that will actually allow them to redefine the direction of computing across this entire space. If they blow it, they've essentially consigned themselves to a diminishing franchise in Office and being a video game company. Not that that's a bad thing. That could be very profitable, but that's not going to be the same Microsoft. So this is really, I think 2012 is the decision year. They've basically said as much. Now we're expecting, from the sources I've heard at Microsoft, we're expecting huge announcements, I think starting at CES next week and then at the World Mobile Congress at the end of the month. Huge announcements that will show people exactly where Microsoft wants to position itself across the desktop, tablet, mobile space.
And Rhys, the move to the cloud and accessing software on the cloud, does that also diminish the importance of an operating system like Windows?
Not at all. It still needs to be there. There's still a lot of use cases for offline media. We still don't, people still need to have access when they're disconnected from their networks to their software and their applications. What we're seeing is more of the ability to do offline sync and work with data in different scenarios easily without having the users to manually do interjection, to either sync manually or do something like that.
And gentlemen, to finish off, I'll get your views. How can business cope with this trend that's happening now, this move away from PCs into the mobile world? Follow.
I think it's very critical for businesses to look at the mobile trends and look at it as the main core of their business, particularly publishing businesses and businesses that interact with their consumers all the time. It's so long it's been treated as a kind of an additional part of their online strategy, but that really needs to be flipped around the other way around, with online being almost complementary to what you do as mobile, as your primary activity.
So it just becomes another channel they have to consider as part of this?
Well, possibly even the most important one of all that could possibly do. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I would definitely go forward on that. It is the most important channel to be mobile, particularly when you're taking a look at retailing. Australian retailing is still sort of stuck in a pre-web dark age, and it's now possible for us to actually leapfrog directly into mobile retailing so that the retailer is always in front of the consumer. That's the possibility here, and that's how businesses need to start to think about this constant point of presence they can have in someone's pocket.
Well, if mobile is so popular, are we going to see the emerging world skip the PC generation and go straight to mobile?
In a lot of ways they have. That's the thing. In a lot of ways, I think, would say in Africa and India, they absolutely have done that. Probably less so in China. But China had some infrastructure before the mobile revolution began. Countries that are moving directly into the mobile revolution are skipping the PC for the most part.
Okay, and Rhys, how can business best prepare for this?
At the moment, what we're seeing is IT teams are taking this challenge upon by themselves, trying to craft out policies and systems. They need to actually go back to their business, back to their user base and their customer base, and actually understand what it is they want. Look at other examples out there. There's some really great examples of mobile applications and systems, and really work on assigning some policies and some good frameworks, because there are devices out there now.
Okay, gentlemen, very interesting discussion. A lot to look forward to in 2012 with more growth in mobiles and tablets, it looks like. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all for this week's edition of Technology Behind Business. You can watch the show again on our website at skynews.com.au, and you can follow me on Twitter at nfreightestech. I'm Nigel Freitas. Thanks for your company.